Go for it, you guys.
I was going to say alphabetical order. We could get Aaron to go first.
Oh, there we go. Good idea. Go ahead, Aaron. You got it. Kick us off.
I mean,
keep it under 15 minutes.
Yeah, I know. All right, well, here we go. Buckle up. No, my name is Aaron Brien. I'm from Crow Agency, Montana, now living in Flathead, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me come. I guess everything else will get answered as we go along, I suppose. Next.
Great, thanks.
That's you, Sarah.
Yeah, I guess I'll go second here. So thanks, Lara, and thanks to the AISES OSU chapter. It's so good to spend this evening with you all. Really happy to be here tonight. I currently work for the USDA Forest Service in the Rocky Mountain Research Station, Missoula Fire Sciences Lab. But my duty station is based there at Salish Kootenai College, which is where I get to work with these two fantastic colleagues. And here in Montana, I guess I moved from Flagstaff, Arizona, which is where I finished my PhD in forestry at Northern Arizona University, and enrolled tribal member at the Pueblo of Laguna, New Mexico. So yeah, looking forward to our conversation tonight.
Cool. Yeah. So Shandin Pete, that's my name. I'm from Arley, Montana. And I got a really interesting story about Corvallis, Oregon. And it directly involves my time in AISES as a younger lad. And I don't think I can tell the whole story today, but it involves a bunch of brownies and a model of a volcano. Was anybody there that's here today? It's a really embarrassing story. Nobody remembers it? Good.
Well, that was probably in 1996, Shandin.
It was 93. I'm sorry, 1993. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Okay. That's my intro, man. The brownie volcano. Ask around about it. If anybody remembers.
Those are great introductions.
Yeah, you know, okay, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, we're kind of like to take this different approach to introductions. And if anybody has ever listened to our podcast, I don't know if we ever officially introduced ourselves per se, but we really like the mystery of letting you get to know us unfold as the conversation continues. That's kind of it seems like an approach that we take because we're familiar with it. It's kind of how we grew up in our communities is, you know, we just know everybody, but we don't know the finer details. So as you converse and get to know each other, you get to know more and more. And that's really a trust building exercise, if you will.
Emphasis.
But I expect somebody to ask me, emphasis on the trust, but I expect somebody to ask me about the brownie volcano through email. Okay.
Okay, so we've collected a few questions from our AISES chapter to get us just kind of started in the discussion. So I guess the first one, and maybe the most relevant one so far, is how did you get into your respective fields, and how did that pathway lead you into science communication? Sarah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure, totally. Yeah, so how I entered the field of forestry. So like many of you, I'm assuming you're members there of the AISES chapter, so you're in college, so you're, you know, taking classes and stuff. And as a freshman in college, I actually entered in the math major because I really loved math and I wanted to be a math teacher, and that was kind of what I was driven to be as I graduated high school. But when I got into Calc 3 and physics and all those other really challenging courses, I found myself on academic probation. So I was kind of at this crossroad to decide what I was going to do, and otherwise they were going to let me go as a student. And I luckily just rediscovered the passion that I had as a kid, and that was being outdoors and working with wildlife and just having a passion for animals and other creatures. And so luckily I found the field of ecology by my sophomore year and transferred over. And after that, like the rest is history. I just really excelled in my coursework at that time. And I remember approaching my AISES advisor my junior year in college, and I didn't really know exactly what graduate school was or what it entailed. And I remember going to him for advice and just piecing together kind of what I had to do at that time to go on to graduate school. And he asked me point blank, you know, what about going for a PhD? And at that time, I had no confidence or no understanding that I could pursue that. But the fact that my AISES advisor asked me that just made me feel like, okay, maybe I could do this. And so that's what sort of led me on to graduate school after that. So I really have to credit AISES for a lot of it, and find myself in that profession since. So thanks.
That's great. Aaron, do you want to go next?
No, I don't. I'm just kidding. I'll go. My name is Aaron Brien, like I said, but I got into, so my background is in anthropology, but I got into doing what I'm doing just by growing up in Crow. You kind of get accustomed to hearing stories and collecting stories, maybe without you even realizing it. You kind of associate everything with being Crow, kind of have a Crow-centrism. And so as I got into school, I started trying to figure out ways to just do more Crow stuff, really, if I'm being honest. And I took a cultural anthropology class from a guy named Dr. Jeff Benjamin, and I realized like that's what I wanted to do. I immediately seen problems with it, with the field of anthropology, but I still was fascinated by the discipline of observing human behavior. So yeah, and then I just went from there, and it continues to grow and hopefully be more interdisciplinary. So thank you.
That's awesome. Is it Shandin?
Shandin. Yeah,
Shandin.
like two names, Sean and Dean. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, you know, I got a probably pretty similar story, but I think, you know, there was one turning point in my undergraduate, well, I guess in my high school days too, you know, and it really had to do with some very particular individuals who inspired me in a way to pursue science. But really, you know, one of the things that I did in one of my undergraduate courses, it was about lichens, you know, mapping the progression of lichens from these scree slopes into, say, some understory. And that one little activity, it allowed me to visualize data. So we had to map this data up, graph it up in Excel, and visualize how that lichen community changed in that small environment there. And just the fact that I could visualize something that I otherwise had never seen or noticed before, I think really caught me, and it struck me. And it was those really outdoor experiences that my undergraduate instructors engaged me in. So, you know, I really point my pathway into science based on those experiences. But really, it was then a passion then for me to also give that experience to other Native youth that may not otherwise get that type of experience in the public school systems we got. So that inspired me. It opened my eyes. It says, by golly, you know, I need to inspire other people and do exactly the same thing. And I think Aaron just loves it when I say, by golly. He starts to giggle.
I do, man. Every time you say it, I get a kick out of it. By golly. Gosh dang. God dang.
Yeah. God darn it anyway. God darn lichens.
You had me at lichen.
The end. I know. Usually catches you. Okay,
So
shoot, what you got next?
One of our chapter advisors, Andrew Martinez, we're going to kind of go back and forth with questions, so it's not just going to be coming from me.
Oh,
Drew, do you want to go next?
Sure.
What you got, Drew?
We're talking about, let me turn my camera on. My
I was
apologies.
going to say, yeah, we could, it's nice to actually see other people's cameras too. So
Human contact. What about?
yeah, more than welcome to.
All right. So talking science communication, that's a very broad, like, net that you can cast out. Science communication to your peers in academia, science communication to potential mentees, Native youth, science communication to Indigenous communities and tribal community members. How do you tailor those messages? And actually, let me throw in another audience in there, policymakers. I have a lot of interest in communicating my research to not only my tribal community, but policymakers as well. Any experience on the panel there that can help inform students as they move forward as well?
Yeah, I could say something about that, but I'd rather give Aaron and Sarah a chance because I'll probably just talk too much. But I think Aaron might talk too much
By
too.
golly.
By golly, let's give Sarah a chance. But she might talk too much too. All right, go.
Yeah, well, I think it really takes knowing your audience and knowing what they value and what they care about. So totally, yeah, my communication strategies vary depending on who I'm presenting to. If I'm going to a wildlife society meeting and presenting on a topic versus presenting back to the tribal community I'm working with, it's going to be a completely different approach to conveying the information. And I think it's important when you're communicating to different audiences to be able to relate to them. And that's what can get you to that piece of being able to identify the values and just making sure that your message is heard. I really think that it, like, part of human nature is we all tend to gravitate and care for ideas that are similar to our own. And I don't even like admitting that, but that's just kind of human nature sometimes. So in order to really convey those messages, we just got to keep things like that in mind. And it's funny, I was actually just talking to a colleague this afternoon from the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society, and her and I were talking about, you know, when we're like back home or talking with family, like we never talk about like all of our degrees and stuff. Like that's just, it seems so conceited and it seems so like, oh, stuck up and horrible. But then you go to like a scientific conference and that's like the first thing you have to put on your slide, especially kind of as a younger scientist. Like you have to earn that credibility. Otherwise, I don't know, you're just not taken seriously. So I truly think it's a thing. And Drew, I'm glad that you asked this question because it's really important for us to all think about as Native scholars.
And can I add one more point that I thought about as you spoke about that is going to conferences and putting your degree out there as opposed to not really talking about it when you're back in your communities. When you go to conferences, you're kind of selling yourself or trying to sell yourself to, you know, potential advisors, to potential sponsors for future funding and research and stuff like that. And so it's a challenge to really tailor that that message to those audiences as well. Thank you.
Does anyone have a comment on that one?
Andrew, maybe you can rephrase the question for me again, if you don't mind.
So
I know that's sorry, my bad.
No worries. So we're talking science communication, and I'm thinking tailoring your message specifically to audiences. So if you're gonna, and Sarah got into this as well, I mentioned tailoring messages to policymakers.
Yeah.
Your peers in academia, maybe at college, tribal community members, and also Native youth who you may be mentoring. Adjusting your messages to those audiences and making sure that you're heard. Sarah spoke to, you know, getting to the value of what's there.
Yeah, this has kind of been like something I've always had I don't know, it's been like this side project all the time of mine is how do you better communicate in what you're doing? My biggest thing is if tribal audiences can understand it, then everyone can. So I'm not too concerned necessarily with It's not
you get cut
like
off. There goes still.
What did I do?
You froze up there.
You got cut off.
Oh, did I? Okay, sorry. It
Roll
was
with it.
brilliant.
Really
though.
profound.
It was brilliant. You guys just missed it. No, I would say that my writing, I've always catered it for tribal people first. And the way I believe is, and this isn't a form of activism. It's just me. I'm a Native person. I grew up around Native people. I live by Native people. So that's just what I do. Now, what I've noticed is that it seems to be accepted by more and more non-Indian entities as time goes on, where when I first started, it was like there was such a scientific insecurity in many different fields, to where you had to like over science your work to prove your point, to prove your worth. And what I never wanted to do was give something I wrote or I researched to my dad or to my uncles or my aunts and say, hey, read this, and then they just don't get enjoyment out of it. I think the view of Native people has always been that science is kind of for us in science, it's always this junction of like traditional knowledge, natural resource management, and then traditional scientific research, but yet we try to like categorize our worldviews in the same way, when I think if we just kind of keep it the way it is, it comes out as something palatable, you know, and it's not overthought, and it's understood, and it conveys to everybody, which I think is the point of the work I do. Is if the intent doesn't cater to the audience, then there's no point for me to do it. So I don't know if I said anything. So somebody stop, hit the buzzer, Andrew. Hit the buzzer.
We did. Tap him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. You know, when you talk about when you're talking about that, it reminds me, if I could just jump in and say my answer. Is that okay? Moderators, am I cool? All right. Yes. So it's this idea of what they call epistemic injustice. You know, it's like this credibility, this intellectual credibility that doesn't get applied to you because of who you are, what you look like, where you're raised, those kind of things. So really we and I hate to talk about deficits, because what Serra was saying is if we consider our audience, and for Native folks, I think we always have it on our mind that we want to help our people, we want to help our communities, and the science communication is not really digestible in those traditional communities. It just does, it has no place. We don't talk in the way we write to our science community. So in a way, this intellectual credibility that we apply, or that we have to shift around as we move between these different categories of talking to our peers, maybe at a conference, or talking to our advisors, you know, it almost seems like dishonest, like I'm being dishonest. I'm trying to fluff up the way I talk so I can navigate in some strange world that is outside where I really want to be and where I really want to apply my work. But you know, that's the game we have to play as Native students, because we don't control those systems. We don't make the rules in those systems. So really, we have to kind of be even smarter than those folks, and learn how to communicate in the world of academics, in the world of policy making. But also, we can never ever lose sight of how we communicate to our own people, because if we do that, man, we're just not, we're missing the mark. And I know some people who are doing that right now, and you shouldn't do it. Just don't do it. I'm not going to say names. I've done it as a youth, you know, being just kind of not being guided in the right way. You want to look smart, and you want to say, oh, yeah, I went to school, and you feel bad when you do it. So I don't know if that answers all the questions you had, but that's the approach I take. Just like Aaron said, if your auntie don't understand what the hell you're talking about, then, well, revise what you're saying, explain it a little better. But I really think that's what science communication should be like. It should be consumable by all people without much help. Now, inter or disciplinary communication, that's different. If I'm talking to another hydrologist, yeah, we have to speak the language of hydrology. The end.
Yeah, I think you guys really had some amazing feedback there. And I'm grateful.
Like feedback on the mic? No, I'm just teasing, I'm teasing. I'm here all weekend. Tip your waiters.
Aaron, you literally have the best setup of all of us tonight, and I'm not sure why you're so worried about feedback.
Yeah.
Well, I try. I feel stupid now with this thing.
I like how it like
And you look
bonks in your
stupid.
face sometimes.
I know, yeah.
Jeez.
Where's the Fanta tonight? I was
Oh,
hoping you had
let's
your
not
soda.
go there. I'm sure not everyone here has listened to the podcast, but I had an unfortunate incident with Fanta and Cheetos at one point in my life.
It wasn't unfortunate.
Yeah,
It
I
was
thought
just-
it was the highlights of your
This is
evening.
what you're doing.
Yeah, no, yeah, I guess you're right. You know what? I'm not gonna be.
It was
shamed.
more disruptive. It was more disruptive than, yeah, than.
Yeah, you learn on a podcast that eating into a microphone is not a good idea. So
In that case,
Yeah.
we're going to have to return their gifts just to make sure that we don't,
Oh, darn. I'll still take Cheetos.
or at least Aaron's gift.
oh,
Yeah. All right, we took over. Sorry. What do
Sorry.
you got next?
Yeah.
That's okay. So you all work with Indigenous students and different students who are STEM focused with their academics. So I'm curious what 3 tips you have for specifically for Indigenous STEM students who might be interested in a career that requires science communication.
oh, I got something right off the dome here. There seems to be this notion all the time that Native students who go into their departments, they're always looked to represent all Native perspective, right, in their work. So they'll say, what's Native perspective? So now you got these kids who come from these Native communities or reservations, and now they're asked to like, well, what's Native perspective? I'm here to tell you that don't worry about it. Just do the work. The perspective comes out on its own. Don't go looking for Native perspective. Believe it or not, you already have it. You know, for young Native scholars, I think it kind of taints them in a way, because now they're aware of it, and they make efforts to look for it, and they'll say, "Oh, I want to write this from a Native perspective." You were already going to do that before they asked you. Your work's going to be fine and sufficient, so don't sweat it. Don't put anxiety on yourself to look for Native perspective in your research. I'm talking to Jory. Where's Jory LaFrance? She's here, I know. I'm talking to her. Next.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, sorry, there's a huge rainstorm that's coming in right now, and the breeze is just like rocking our house right now. So sorry, I was a little distracted there, but I guess
take
so.
shelter.
I know. I'm like, dang, this is the tree. Well, there are some pretty tall trees around our house.
Are there some
too.
sirens? Are you okay?
Uh-oh. There's supposed to be heavy winds today with some potential tree damage, but I'll let you know. Hopefully everything will be okay.
Keep us
And we've done some fuels management around the house, so things should be
Good.
okay. Yeah.
Put it in the comments.
No hazard trees. Yeah. So tips and comments to the students. Boy. Okay. To get back at that. Well, I guess so. I guess the question I thought you were going to go to, Laura, was about working with Native students and the tips that you can give them for going into STEM. Not necessarily science communication. So sorry.
I think that was the question.
Okay.
Wasn't
it? Just checking.
It can be both.
Okay. Well,
Freestyle it.
you guys are so catering to our needs.
Since you're in tune, you're freestyle it.
The one thing that I love to share, and this is fun because I think we all are kind of nerds and we like equations, but this one comes from Thomas Friedman's book on The World is Flat, and it's all about like increased access to information throughout the globe with the internet, and just more access and availability. And what Thomas Friedman points out in his book is this very simple equation, and it's CQ plus PQ is greater than IQ. And CQ stands for your curiosity quotient, and PQ stands for your passion quotient. And that by far outweighs however intelligent you feel like you might be on the topic. So if you're curious about something and you're passionate about it, Aaron shared a little bit about like his passion for studying human behavior and interactions. And when you have that that passion, by far that can take you further than just, you know, quote unquote, how smart you are. And I think that's important for us to all remember, because we all have particular skills and backgrounds and a deep commitment and responsibility for things like taking care of the environment, conserving our lands, protecting our communities, preserving our traditions, all those things. Like, that's authentic. Like, you can't make that stuff up. And that's what's going to carry us through our education. Who cares about your stupid SAT scores and your stupid GRE scores? Your GPA, things like that.
Tell us how you really feel.
I can get on a soapbox on
Stupid.
these standardized things. Like,
Stupid.
yeah, it's so stupid.
Said
Buzzer.
the Forest Service employee.
Oh gosh, don't fire me.
Well, I think I'll follow up with that, with a little commentary on that. You know, I think one of the things that we often get challenged with, or that we always get asked, is what were some of your obstacles, or what are some of the, and you know, I've been trying to steer away from that idea of looking at the roadblocks, but really examining some of the strengths that a lot of us have, that come from our communities. And one, you know, that you hear often is this idea of resiliency. And I'm not sure if I have a great grasp of what the English means on that word, but what I get is, you know, it's, and I think everybody might think the same way about it, is it's just our ability to continue moving forward without, in the face of adversity. Well, you know, we get to a institution, and we have this fuel, we have this meter of resiliency, and that just gets wore down all the time by these little things. Like, it could be the financial aid lady giving you a heck about something, or, you know, the parking meter guy giving you a ticket for being there 5 minutes too late. And all these little things just eat up our resiliency, you know, this little institutional things. And I think it's an advice I gave to administrators is, gosh darn it, don't be eating up your Indian students' resiliencies, because that's their strength. That's what's going to carry them through. So my advice to Native students would be, man, if you go in knowing one thing, that Indian people, we're just meant to suffer. And that sounds weird, and it sounds odd, and it doesn't make sense right off. But if
way to bring them up.
I know. Well, I'm gonna bring them up. I'm gonna bring it up now. But if you think of suffering if you put it in a ceremonial context, that's what you do when you want something. You suffer willingly and knowingly. You suffer to build your strength, your resiliency, to get a gift from your hard work. And I think I wouldn't compare going to school to some ceremonial pursuit, but I would say that idea of not being beat down by these little day-to-day occurrences is really important. And just to know that you're suffering, you're dealing with the crabby lunch lady, you're dealing with the no-show advisor, you're dealing with the students in your class who you can't identify with. Those are just little things that are looking to eat up your resiliency, when you should reserve some of that for when you get home. The end. Did I build them back up?
Yeah, you did.
I got a little teared up. I had to stop.
I heard a flute. Did you guys hear the flute in the background?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Did we answer your question?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you did a good job. Drew, do you want to ask the next one?
Yep, keep trading off here. So we kind of got at this already, just kind of organically through the last questions, but obviously identifying with your audience that you're speaking with in these different groups and these different audiences. So for students, answering the quote, not for students, but for our panelists, identifying for the students, what are steps, let's say, what are steps that they can take to identify with their audience when they're going out in the first time within a conference? Let's say I'm a Native student going to present at my first, my research at a conference. What are some good steps to help them bridge those gaps? Or maybe we can put out a different scenario. You're reaching out to a new potential advisor for a new master's thesis or your dissertation. What are some ways that you can communicate to advisors that will, gain their interest in, within your research and say like, hey, yes, I should bring the student on as well? Aaron, go first because you look the most lost.
Hey, thanks. But I was thinking like, man, what to tell everybody?
Well, maybe let's just use a conference because AISES hosts conferences. A lot of students go to AISES conferences to present their work, but it's not the only conference that they'll attend if they want to continue to develop. So
I think what I wish somebody would have told me was that everybody else there that's presenting is in the same boat. And that kind of took some pressure off of me, like, because I've presented at archaeology conferences and geoscience stuff. And like over the years, not a lot, but I mean, enough to kind of know it can be nerve wracking. And, but what I would do is practice with my family. And if I can present information, scientific information in a palatable manner to them, there seems to be an ease with it when I'm presenting, at conferences or anywhere, lectures or anything. And I try to make myself seem human. I think a lot of times we find discomfort in trying to mold ourselves to the discipline we're a part of, because it doesn't seem natural for a lot of Native students, right? So once I adopted the mentality of I'm taking the tools that are necessary to do my work from this discipline, it seemed like things kind of came a little more natural. The research topics I was doing, the projects I was working on seemed to fit me more in what I was trying to accomplish. And that alone took so much pressure off. Now it's not hardly anything to go and do those things. So even when I was a student, that happened to me in probably my last year in my undergrad. I started noticing a change in that. So I would say that, I mean, practice for one, right? At any time, but if you can get comfortable with the material that and speak commonly, if it takes great skill to take scientific information and present it in a common format and still have it be received and have somebody take away from that. But with that complication, there seems to be this, I don't know, comfort level that comes with it because it's more natural to you. So I think I answered your question. I'm not actually sure now. I'm in the weeds. Lifeline. Can I phone a friend?
Lifeline.
this is not much different from the podcast. So.
Can I phone a friend?
No, you're done. You used them all up.
Am I done? Did I use up my minutes? You ever have a cousin say that to you? You can't call me because I used up my minutes.
Okay,
I've heard it.
Thank you, Aaron. There's your hook.
Nobody's heard it. Nobody.
Anybody else on the panel like to provide some insight?
Go ahead, Shandin.
Yeah, just being real. That, I mean, you can't fake it because you're not gonna make it. And I don't care what the TV says about that statement. If you don't know something, you just got to say you don't know. You can't pretend to know, and it just speaks to kind of what Aaron said. If you say what you know, and there's a lot of pressure in academics to it seems, and this is just from students that I've taught over the years, is there's this pressure to not be wrong, to be right about everything, to have an intelligent answer. And it takes a lot of reverse psychology, a lot of reverse brainwashing through public school to get the students I would teach to be okay with being wrong, to be okay with not knowing, and just being upfront that they're taking an educated guess at things. And I think that by doing that, it really builds this confidence in you that you don't have to adhere to a standard that maybe doesn't fit your cultural norms, because I don't think anybody goes back into their home communities and brags around and boasts about things they don't know about. Those kind of people just it's just not a norm in the community. So really, that's what I would coach my my undergrad students that I taught, was just to be real and be prepared to be wrong, and be prepared to just don't make things up. I don't know. I had something else I was gonna say, but I forgot. I wrote it down somewhere. Yeah, that's all. The end, I guess. I was in the weeds.
You're good.
Well, come on, Sarah.
Let me know, Shandin, when you remember, and I'll stop talking. So just jump in here when you.
I'm not going to remember. That was my lifeline. That was my call for help. I didn't take my own advice.
Oh man. Okay. Well, Drew. So I love this question because it just brings me back to like my first AISES conference, and I remember like going into the room for the first time, like the career fairs that they hosted. And I just remember like nearly turning back around and wanting to walk back out because I was so scared, like all the booths, and it just seemed so intimidating. And like, I was so nervous to meet anybody. And so I think like I can just really relate to what it's like to sort of enter into a place where you don't know a lot of people, and you know, the purpose is to network and to get to know other people, or reach out to advisors like you were mentioning, or, you know, potential, I guess, academic, you know, mentors or things like that. So I guess the advice I have, kind of like what Aaron said, you know, just practice, like, you know, if there's a way where maybe in your chapter you can introduce or invite some faculty members from across campus or something, and just have like a practice networking session where you get used to introducing yourself, and you get used to like shaking hands, which now I think might be like a bop now, or like an elbow thing with COVID. I don't know how people are going to adjust to COVID. But practice like even networking questions, like ask, thanks Aaron. You know, have like 2 or 3 questions kind of in mind that you would want to ask a stranger or potential advisor. But just, you know, like Aaron said, I mean, just know that everyone else is kind of in the same boat too. Like you're likely not the only one who's feeling nervous about the situation. So yeah, I think that's it. Shandin, you remember what you were going to say?
Lifeline. I did, but now I just forgot it because I was reading the question in the comments.
Oh.
I think it was related to what was it? What was I thinking? God darn it.
Now I want to read the comment.
I know. I don't
So
remember.
No.
Something about my advisor, and I don't remember. I don't know. You just got to be honest, man. That's it, you know.
So maybe I'll say this though about it.
Okay.
I do know at tribal colleges, it's very common for a first and second year student to have presented in classes. I mean, anywhere from 10 to 20 times. So from the time their first semester to when they get their AA, they've already spoken almost in every class. So hopefully by then you've already kind of got that kind of confidence about you. And my dad told me one time, he said, when you speak deliberately. And I always liked the way he said that, because it didn't mean like be aggressive. It didn't mean like be arrogant, but speak like you want to say something and you're going to say it. But it's not aggressive. It's not mean. So I encourage my students all the time to, when you present, do your research, let the research talk for you, and speak deliberately, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. I remember what I was going to say now. It's just about speaking in a very common way. You know, I guess some people are really great orators of things. You know, they have a way to Tarantino their conversation, you know, where they say the end and then they build to the beginning and in some way. And that's that skill to be a really good storyteller and to really humanize what you're saying. That was another thing I would always tell my students when you're presenting. I better learn something about you. That doesn't mean tell me your name at the beginning of the talk. It's just talk to me freely as if we're having a conversation and you're just kind of rattling off some news about what you did during the day. So humanizing what you talk about, I think anybody can identify with that, whether it's an academic or somebody you meet at a conference. You know, we're all just humans. We share the same type of physiological needs in a way. And I think just a great story with some personalized features in it that tie you into what you do and what you know, I think is really important. So throw some anti-jokes in there, or some jokes about your uncle who's not doing so well. I don't know. You know, it's anything. Humor is also a good way. Yeah, Aaron's like, nah, wrong. Bringing in humor into what you do is really important. That's a skill, though. You just got to develop over the years, which I haven't mastered yet, as Aaron's frown tells me. But you're mic partner, so
hey,
there you go.
To all you scholars out there, no more fry bread jokes. Come on, let's step it up. Let's step it up. This is
yeah.
And today, every time Shandin says resilience, AISES is going to buy everyone a taco. So I'm just letting you guys.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, the end.
So you kind of just hit on this, but a specific question from one of our students, actually the last question we have from our students before we get to the chat, was how do you integrate your indigeneity or your tribal cultures into your science communications?
I think it's in the same way that I just mentioned, you know, and I think it's, I don't even think it's an indigenous thing. I think it's just a human thing. Anything that's going to be interesting, anything that's going to catch my ear is going to be something that is personalized. It comes from a person and they're speaking honestly and passionately about it. And sometimes you can just nerd out and talk straight science, you know, and that happens between people in the same discipline. But ultimately, you know, a part of you comes out in that speech, and whether it's just the passion and tone in your voice, or, you know, if you're talking cross-disciplinary, yeah, you kind of have to engage people by letting people into your inner child, if you'd say, and let them know about yourself. That's becomes an important part of and that's less. I don't really I guess I'm not sure what it means to indigenize something per se. I mean, I do know what the popular theme of that is, but I think, you know, it's just really a human endeavor to make conversation interesting. And sometimes that involves talking about who you are and where you come from in some of your cultural pursuits. So I think that would be the indigenizing part. That's a really broad answer to that question. But I know Aaron and Sarah got something building up. Aaron's looking around. Sarah's smiling. They're laughing.
I can't help myself. You guys
Yeah,
just
bring it in there.
make all these things so fun to participate in. Yeah, I think there's just so much purpose in why we're all pursuing our fields or our research projects or a publication, and so letting that purpose kind of shine through. And so, like, for the work that I get to do, a lot of the purpose is all about promoting what tribes are doing and managing their own forests, and showcasing and highlighting the great work that they're doing with limited budgets. And I think just the way that the Indigenous lens kind of comes through is, like, I just have such great respect for what we are all kind of tasked with right now, and a little bit of humility too, or huge humility, and also some responsibility, and those things kind of shine through. And like, some of us actually on this panel, we were working on a paper recently about Native faculty in STEM, and we bring out some of those 6 R's that we talk about that are kind of foundational in Native communities, and putting those at the front of our paper and saying this is what guided our research. And so, yeah, I think that So now my dog is interrupting my eloquent speech by drinking her water. So, and I'll just stop. I'll use that as the buzzer. Sorry.
Tap her out, Aaron.
God, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I need a refresher on the question, because now what ends up happening is I have comments to what Shandin said, and I have comments to what Sarah said. So can you ground zero me right here?
Yeah, here's ground zero. So how do you integrate your indigeneity or your tribal cultures into your science communication?
Oh yeah, I think a lot of that was kind of answered in some of the what helped me was when I stopped trying to. And believe it or not, once I realized I was trying to make it Indian, right? And once I realized I'm just going to be myself and just do the work, it seemed to come out more. And as I got more comfortable with it, then I was able to, I don't know, quantify it, I guess isn't the right word, but I was able to kind of, I'm going to say it, I was able to harness it.
What did you say?
Harnessed.
Harness. Okay.
You know, harness.
spell
Did I
that?
get tacos for that one too?
Yeah, I
Add that
know.
to the vocab list.
I mean, that's kind of a low level vocab, but that's okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bring it up a notch, Jared.
Sorry, I was able to coalesce. Did I use it right? Did I use the word right? Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that's it. I think a lot of that, if people listen to this, they'll see a lot of what we're saying is answering that question. I think. Stop.
Okay, stop. Aaron's off the stage. Got the hook. So
Hey, I was short on that one. Shandin needed the hook.
thank you. So if the panelists are able to check the chat, we do have some audience questions. We have worked through the student questions that were submitted by the Oregon State AISES chapter. We wanted to make sure that we got through those first. This series was pretty much developed for them specifically, but we're actually reaching a much more broad audience. So if there's any questions in the chat that, as you read through those, that you'd like to address, go for it. We have 7 minutes left on the call, based off of my time over here.
Yeah, I guess I could just chat for a second about the knowledge coexistence. I think knowledge is just knowledge. I don't think there's that much a difference in what that is, but I think how they're arrived at, I think, is very different. And I try not to separate too much or make this polarize the idea of Western versus Indigenous knowledge, because I don't think it really serves us too well to kind of pit one side against the other. I think if we all endeavor to create knowledge, it should work, or it can work for all people. But I think the pathways to gaining knowledge is different. Would you agree, Aaron?
Yeah, it's a very well written question and using words that I don't understand. No, you're right.
You agree then, Sarah?
No,
okay.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you completely, man.
Be better.
Again, it comes back to kind of just being yourself, letting your community come out in you, letting your culture come out in you, and the rest seems to take care of itself, man. There's this anxiety of like, how do I do this Indian? Sometimes chemistry is just chemistry. It doesn't matter if you put a feather on it. It doesn't matter if you smudge it off. It's chemistry, right? That's just the way it is, and that's okay. I think we don't have to make everything something it's not. And I'm an Indian. I'm cool with it. The work I do, it's going to come out Indian. And this promoting our knowledge coexistence and research, I would assume it kind of fixes itself as you get comfortable in your own skin. I think what people don't want to acknowledge is that a lot of Native people, there's deep cultural insecurity in us. And that comes from like culture loss and colonization and then our own problems on our own communities and reservations. And I think in order for us to be good researchers and do good work and we're kind of asked to quickly become comfortable with ourselves, and that can be hard to do and challenging, and but I think that's the key. Be comfortable with you, and then all this other stuff seems to fix itself.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that speaks to the last question that's on there. I think if we embrace that idea, I don't think I don't ascribe to trying to convince Western science of anything that we do and that we know. Really our community and our peers are the ones who should validate what we do, whether it's right or wrong. And we have to really, and I think there's a growing body of Native scholars now that I don't think we're becoming less dependent on universities and academics to validate what we know and what we don't know. We can't be shoddy in what we do, and I think our peers will hold us to that, and that's why you see a lot of discussion about what are Indigenous research methodologies. How do you indigenize things? That we're peer reviewing ourselves as we have these discussions. So, dressing things up as being Native, that we can't get away with that no more. And our peers are checking us on that. And, that's outside Western academics. And if they don't want to accept our knowledge, that's fine, because what we're trying to do is help our people. We're not trying to help Western academics. So I would
say the same thing to Crystal. And there's don't worry about convincing anybody of your work. Do good work. I've grown accustomed to not having to justify my existence to anyone. Again, I try to do good work. I try to produce something that's people can use, but I wouldn't worry too much about Western science. And again, the greatest tool in science is observation. So why wouldn't you listen to people who've been here for 15,000 years? So.
Totally. And it's so cool to see you on here, Crystal. I was stoked. I love that question at the end. I totally agree 110% with what Shandin and Aaron just mentioned. And it's almost like not worth our bandwidth. Like, we know our stories, we know our practices. Like, it's not worth our time and energy and effort, I feel, to try to continue to convince scientists. And I just love what you said there at the end, Aaron, about observation. But to comment on, I think Sterling had asked a question about introducing himself. Be proud of who you are. And, it might feel, you might be nervous or whatnot, but remember, you've got your whole line of ancestors and families behind you, and all of these other Native scholars, even though we're all, probably dispersed and we're all not always in the same place at the same time, but it just makes us proud too, to know that you are doing those things. And I'll just say one other final comment in that, since you all are at some point in your academic journey, that being somebody who is now kind of out of my academic journey, but I'm still learning, I'm still getting feedback and things like that, and going to be constantly learning. But in your coursework and in your current studies right now, try to just work to the point so that, when you graduate and when you finish, people are going to be looking to you as the leaders to speak to these topics. So as much as you can, study hard. And this might sound like a real cliche, you got this in college, but I swear, go to your office hours, read every single sentence from your papers that you're assigned, and do as good as you can in your classes, because there's going to be a day where you graduate and people are going to be looking to you as the expert in these fields, and we need to be able to count on you for our communities. So keep up the good work in your studies, really pursue that and work hard.
I want to comment on Sterling's question. How do you overcome nerves to introduce yourself in your native language? First, I would tell you, and this might come off blunt, if you don't speak to your own people in that language, don't worry about others. That's the truth. And I don't want to make that sound arrogant or kind of mean spirited, but it's because it's not. The idea is that use it with your people, you know, use your language with your people. That's the priority. And the introductions of yourself, that'll come with time. But again, participate in ceremony, participate in community, and all of that stuff will start to work in itself. I encourage everybody here to participate in ceremony. Your research drastically changes once you become a practitioner of culture versus an observer of it. So that'd be my advice to everybody here. So
Yeah, and if you're introducing yourself in your language, you start with the finger.
yeah,
Then you say, yeah.
and you kind of do it mean, like
yeah,
like
yeah,
you wanna like lecture them. And you probably should say, like, you're the last one to know this stuff. There's no one left but me, you know. You kind of get mad at them.
yeah.
That's the
There was a
best way.
question, and I think we're out of time, but about returning home with your degree when there's no really place to go.
Oh man, that's
Do we
a
have
tough
time
one
or no?
That's tough for these Montana reses.
I mean, we can go a little over if you want to. I know that you guys are only supposed to be here till 6, but if you want to answer some more questions, you're more than welcome to.
So the beauty of this whole thing is I'm at home. So
yeah, I have nowhere to go myself.
I just got stuff in my Netflix queue I got to get to.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, I think returning home, that's always a tough one, man. And there's no job sometimes when you get an advanced degree. You can go work at the gas station, but that kind of underserves all the work you've done. So I think being an entrepreneur of your ideas becomes kind of important, and I've been forced into that here recently. So if you have a home for your ideas, and if for lack of a better word, if it burns in your heart, then you'll find a way to make it happen. You know, the burning heart.
Like some Tums.
Yeah, the burning heart.
Burning heart, like a phoenix. I would tell you.
In your heart. Yeah. Go.
Well, this question here came from Jory LaFrance, who's from the same place I'm from, and this is a question a lot of Crow people and people who live in like very poor reservation communities with maybe a lot of political dysfunction or a lot of the common problems in Indian country. This isn't an isolate to Crow country. This is something that's going on all over, especially in the West. You know, I would say you have to like build yourself to be a standalone thing before you can go back to be effective. Because if you go back and then become just another dependent and another contributor to the dysfunction or to whatever the problem is, I'm not saying any single problem. My advice to all Native scholars would be, there's no better role model to young Native scholars than to be an independent thinker who's self-sufficient but has respect for community and ceremony and land. And the best way to prove that to yourself and to others is to be able to do it, to act in that. So I would say, if you want to help your community, at the very least, be that example of someone who can make it for themselves with the backing of the culture and the ancestors. People always say that. They'll say, you have your, Sarah said it earlier, you have your ancestors. I'm like, man, now there's a lot of pressure on me. I hope they're not watching me. I really hope they're doing better things than watching Aaron on a Zoom, you know, like, so that's what I would say. Sarah, go. You're next.
Thanks for calling me out. I just wanted to say thanks. I don't really have any final closing thoughts here, but just want you all to know that we're here for you. Reach out, you know. I know it's not easy going through school and being active in all the organizations and virtual learning right now. Geez, I can't imagine having to take classes online. This is just such a odd time. So know that we're here for support, and just wanted to thank Lara for inviting us here tonight. And hopefully some of you will be attending the AISES virtual conference in a couple days too.
Yeah, and thank
thanks,
you. Oh,
I'm
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I interrupted
I
you.
was just going to say the same thing. Thanks for the invite, Laura and Drew. Great to share some words. I don't know if they're any good. I never do. That's Aaron rubbing off on me. He's always the Debbie Downer. I don't know if what I said is good.
I am not the Debbie Downer.
Okay, I am today. But thank you anyway. I appreciate it.
If you say you're the Debbie Upper, though, that sounds bad. That's like a drug or something, huh? You can't say that.
You shouldn't talk about this. Is being recorded. So.
What's that?
I wouldn't put that advice out there.
No, don't do that. No.
And if there's anything about learning from Aaron's actions and not making your own mistakes, don't eat Cheetos while speaking on a podcast. Really quick, so bring it back around.
So meaningful.
Yeah, it is. It's all helpful. So I want to take a minute. Sarah was just recently awarded the Most Promising Engineer Scientist Award through AISES. I saw that article come out in Indian Country today. So if we could take a moment of round of applause. If you want to clap on Zoom, that's totally fine.
Snaps. Snaps.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks.
So yeah, we are over time now, but very engaging. There's been some great comments back and forth, some great content. And then also thank you all for the audience members for dropping your questions in the chat and joining us today.
Yeah, thank you to all of our panel speakers for your time. Thanks to all the organizers. And if you guys want to catch our next session, it's November 18th from 5 to 6 p.m. We probably will have a different Zoom link. Just find us on social media. And that session is going to be focused on working with tribal communities and tribal governments. So, yeah.
Cool.
Stay tuned. Thanks again, everyone, for your time. I hope you have a great night. And thank you to all the OSU students who helped make this possible.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yep. See you later, sister.
Go get Netflix.
Sierra.
Yeah,
see my sister. There's my sister. Wave. There's my sister. Where you at? Where you at?
You sound like
she's so much cuter than you.
I know.
He sounds like a resident. He sounds like, there's my sister.
My sister.
Guys, look at my sister.
Sister, say hi.
Sister.
Where you at in Massachusetts? Is that where you're at?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Indian country. Nothing says Indian country like Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah.
Central Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
You and the Amish killing it.
Amish and coal.
Yeah. Barn raising. Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, Sierra, tell us what you're doing there. I want to know. Tell us a little more.
I'm in graduate school in my second year. And actually, my advisor was on here. I don't know if she's on here anymore. But we study seabirds in Alaska.
Oh, excellent. Oh, who is your advisor? I guess
she was Morgan Benowitz Fredericks, but I think she maybe popped off.
Oh, there she is. Hi, advisor.
Hey.
Give her all kinds
That's
of
my
A's.
sister's advisor. That's my sister's advisor.
That's my sister's advisor. Heck.
I don't need to give her the A's. She's doing it herself.
All right.
Yeah. We're just teasing. Oh, good. Well, congrats. So it's your.
I like how she simplified it for us. She's like, I study seabirds. She took our advice.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Deliberate.
What is it?
So cool.
Spoke deliberately.
Speak deliberately.
Yes. Speak deliberately.
Seabirds. And talk about how humble you are and pitiful you are at the same time.
Yeah.
But also how blessed you are. That one always gets in the same conversation. They go from blessed to pitiful.
Yet humble about
humble.
We
should have Sterling. Where's Sterling at? I want to see his face because he was asking about the language.
Oh yeah.
This is the special features of the.
This is like our Facebook Live post podcast.
Sterling. There's Sterling. Yeah. Sterling.
Remember,
Sterling is exactly how I pictured him.
Yes.
Wow, Aaron, you gotta have a follow-up from that.
Boom. I was like, Sterling. He's this guy. He just seems like he should be on our podcast.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Next guest.
You're muted. That was
We'll
your
work that out
job
before you
interview.
join the
Oh, I said,
podcast.
how much you paying? I'm down.
Oh,
How much we
How
paying?
much we
Oh,
paying?
boy.
Sterling is off the podcast.
Off the podcast.
No, I was gonna tell you, Sterling, if you want to like learn how to introduce yourself in your language, just learn to count to 10, do it really fast, change your flow, and then do it backwards again. And everybody will bow their heads, and it's gonna work, man. It'll work.
Yeah.
Guarantee you.
Yeah. I can go to 10, but I can't go backwards, so I'll work on that.
Yeah, and then like slow it down.
And then I'll do like 2, 4, 6, 8.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
And then maybe say some animals, like just say some animals.
Some random animals in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then cough in the middle of it. and then man, you get them. You'll get them every time.
Or say an English word, throw it in there.
Oh, yeah. Throw one English word.
University of Montana. Yeah.
Yeah, there. See, it works. It works. Sterling, that's real life advice right there.
Okay. I will work on it. I
That's
will do
real
it.
real world, man. You can't pay for that.
No. Hey, we're taking over. We better
Oh, I know.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. We didn't record a podcast this
Sorry, Laura.
week. So
we
It's
did.
okay.
Thank you for answering my question, and thanks for all of this.
yeah, man, you're welcome.
Yep.
Yeah, please hop on to our next call too.
Oh, are you guys? Oh, you're on
yeah.
another one.
I want
We
to
gotta
listen
get
to
off.
the next one.
See you guys.
November 11th.
Sierra.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
I gotta go
Nice
eat
to meet
dinner.
you virtually.
Hey, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yep,
thanks, guys.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Drew. We'll see you guys down the road somewhere.
Yeah, we do
Sounds
have. Follow us on Twitter. We're gonna have more podcasts. What am I saying? We're gonna have more presentation panels coming up around various topics. Science communication was the first one. Working with tribal governments is going to be the next one. So we got folks who work with tribal environmental departments, I believe.
Who do you
Yeah.
have on that?
We
Sorry.
have Todd Mitchell from, I think it's Swinomish tribe. And then we have Dr. Samantha Chisholm Hatfield. So we're looking at it from people who are working outside of tribes who work with tribes, and then people who are like directors of environmental programs within tribes. So trying to kind of look at it from a two-prong approach of working with tribal governments. And then in December, we have an academia one coming up too. And Dr. Twyla Baker's there for that one.
Yay, great.
And then Kat Milligan-Meyer also is for that one, I think. So yeah.
Just name
Cool.
dropping. Just
I
name
am.
dropping. Scott Mama Day is gonna be there.
West Studi.
West Studi.
Oh,
is
West
there. All right, I'm leaving.
Okay,
we'll see you
yeah,
guys.
let's-
Thank you.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
Thanks, you guys. See ya.
Bye.